everything leads to, and maybe it's just from my perspective of where I've been, with Jonestown and stuff,
Yeah.
but it goes back to now they're saying, okay, well, we're not going to have a virus not a virus, but a medicine developed until maybe a year from now.
Yeah.
Maybe. But then they
Yeah.
say, but in the meantime, we want you to follow these rules and regulations, and we don't want you guys to go outside anymore. We don't want you to
Yeah.
we don't want you to go to the grocery store. We definitely don't
Yeah.
want you to go to church.
Yeah.
But basically, it's like a real lockdown. Naturally, in our mind, is locking us down because, okay, what am I do now? And people are so used to going places. Now I understand it is, like I said, it is a virus that has struck a many of people. Recently, we got a lady that we're waiting to hear from her and see if, because she was all right when she went to the hospital. Right now, she's going through something, and then you can't go see them, which makes it extra worse because of the
Sure.
family members. You
Yeah.
would rather have someone with you if you're going to cross over,
Yeah.
but they put that out there, and then they put out the restrictions. Now I could see going to a game because there's thousands of people there. And you're right. You don't know how many people may even have the flu, may even
Yeah.
have a high fever or any other kind of communicable disease, a simple cold that
Yeah.
could do damage to your body, especially if your body's not where it should be.
Sure.
So it brings suspect to me because, okay, guys, I'm watching you as leaders and leaders in all forms and fashion, but at times you don't have your protection on, but you're telling us we need to wear protection. So, what's the pot talking about the skillet? And the skillet's not adding up to what the pot is saying. So in
Yeah.
that respect,
Well, have you?
hmm?
You mentioned Jonestown a minute ago, and and as I was thinking of folks, because I just wanted to talk to somebody. Of course, where I live, I'm talking to people all the time about what's going on, but this is our little world. I wanted to talk to somebody who's far away,
Mm-hmm.
and who, just because you live along, you're in California, I'm in Arkansas, so you've got a different experience out where you are, and also you have a very different life experience. So I was thinking, well, who do I want to talk to? And you really are immediately you're the person who came to my mind. Partly because, I just like talking to you and I like hearing your point of view. But you mentioned Jonestown, and you do have that experience. Have you found, as we've been experiencing all this since March, have you made points of contact in your mind between some of the things we're experiencing these days and some of what you experienced back in People's Temple, Jonestown world?
Sure. The simple word, control. Control. Jones had built us up through fear, guilt, and condemnation. Well, if you stick with me, I've got a plan where you can live free. Your children will never have to deal with racism, but we have to do it this way. And if you don't, then the mysterious they, and that could be all kind of governmental agencies that he would always, depending on which one he wanted to use, would always come in and destroy you or use you for information and destroy you. But it was all about control, how you slept, how you worked, the whole 9 yards. And some sense of that is happening now because look at they've got millions of people out of work now because they shut down. Okay, we want to shut down to control the virus. But in the meantime, how are these people going to eat? Okay, then on the other hand, that's all right. We'll give you a stimulus check of $1,200. Most persons on this side of the country, that's not a good house note. And once it's gone, it's gone. And now their people, say on this side of the country, are saying, where's the next one? They're not looking for a job. They're hoping it'll come. Those that are on unemployment, hey, they give me an extra $600 a week. Damn, I'm making more than I was making when I was working.
So the similar themes I'm hearing you say, one theme is Well, I'm thinking three. I think three things at least that I'm hearing from you. One, you've got the individual who says, you know, I'm the authority and I know how to protect you.
Right.
You've got the spirit of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the person in authority saying, well, since you're so fearful now because of this horrible thing I'm protecting you from, I'm also going to take care of you.
Right.
And is that that's something, you know, I don't want to overblow it, but you have this experience in People's Temple, Jonestown, we've got what you're describing now. I mean, is this when you're kind of looking around, you're thinking, oh, I've seen something like this before?
Sure.
I don't want to lead you, and I don't want to, you know, put words in your mouth. But here's a thought I had this morning, and if you think it's totally wrong, please be sure to tell me. But you know, because as I was thinking about this conversation with you, and honestly, you know, as we've been going through this since March, you know, my own thoughts have gone to, you know, what I've learned about People's Temple, what I've learned about Jonestown. And the conversation is not about that, but of course you have this, you know, this very, you know, rare experience. Here's sort of the thought that went through my mind this morning. I'd love to hear your response to it. So, I mean, my impression is that one of the reasons people were attracted to the temple was because it did respond to real problems. There were real problems out there. Problems of poverty, problems of injustice, problems of unfairness. Mm-hmm. It responded to real problems. But the response, you know, eventually, you know, turns out to be a greater problem than the problems that the movement responded to at the outset. So that's thought number one. Then I look at now I'm expressing my own view. Okay, so look at the coronavirus. It's real. But my feeling from the very first day was we're on the point of overreacting. We know who's vulnerable. Let's put our time and energy into protecting those people. We don't have to shut down the entire society. We don't have to devastate the economy. So there's a real problem, but the answer to the problem seems to be so much greater. Then we look, you know, you mentioned just briefly, you know, referred to the social unrest we've seen. Everybody who saw that video of George Floyd, yeah. I mean, it has to be almost every single person who saw that could tell that something was wrong. So we've got a real problem here, you know, and there's got to be a response to this. But then, I mean, somehow within a few weeks that morphs into parts of cities being taken over and all kinds of violence and mayhem. And it seems like the response is just kind of whack compared to the actual problem that everybody agreed on. You know, everybody agreed there's a problem.
Right.
Do you agree that, I mean, that in the three cases that the temple is responding to real problems, but ultimately the answer turns out to be a bigger problem? Same thing with coronavirus, same thing with response to the George Floyd situation. Do you agree with that, or what is your sense of that?
Okay, the first thing, I agree with you in regard to what the temple, the People's Temple, which was supposed to have been for all people, originally started out to do was to help those in social injustice. I remember I used to be a what do you call that? The attorneys would say, okay, this is the case I need you to go down to the civil library and get this information for me in regard to this case, to defend someone who had a relative in the temple or were part of the temple. I did that constantly. So I could see, okay, behind the scenes, there was some stuff going on that was helping people. I'd have to be part of the team. So I could see that. But the end result was, well, and this is why I interpret it, if they won't let me play my game my way, then I'll destroy it. Kind of like a kid person. That's what I felt about.
That's Jim Jones's thing?
Yeah. That's the way I felt about that. So I agree with you on that. The second part in regard to the physical, I mean, the unrest that came behind what happened to George Floyd, I mean, it goes scriptural in one part in that everything done in darkness will come to light, because this is stuff not with only George, but many times stuff has gone like this. Now, think about this. It goes way back because of the fact, and we're talking about even that deep South stuff, but just everyday stuff. L.A. City, when I was growing up, there was just the attitude that because of your color, we immediately think that either you're a gang member or you're going to steal something or you're going to rob something. Now, I was brought up with a single mom, and she taught totally against all of that. And she taught us to love people who they are, no matter what color they wore. That's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
My next door neighbors, they grew up another place because their parents may have come from the deep South where they had racial issues and they were treated less than a human being, but not here. Even though you read about it, you saw it a little bit every now and then, but now it's like it's more blatant. And I'm in my opinion, it's like they like, well, no, you don't deserve anything. Well, unfortunately, no matter what I look like, I was born and reared here, so that makes me automatically a citizen of the United States. So in that, I should have the same rights, even though I have to work harder to prove myself, especially in job situations. So it opened up a can of worms, but along with the can of worms, think about this. Now, contrary to belief, a lot of people have not done homework. When you do homework, the Black Lives Matter movement, as it's called, is more of a feminist / LGBT movement. That's what's happening with that. So to me personally, as a Black person, that's not really representing me. Now, you can bring out issues, and we thank you for it, but for me to get my picket sign and get behind you, because I found with the picketing I did on my own in the late 60s and early 70s, it would only go so far. It's legislature, it's folks that we put in office that need to be maybe oust, bring someone in that may have a different view to do something to work for the people instead of being railroaded like they are on the same train with the same in the end of the train when the train stops. That's my thought on that.
Yeah. So on that is so I'm picking up that you're, and again, tell me if I'm wrong here, that the George Floyd situation, I mean, brings to light, reminds us of problems that have been there for a long time, that have been festering for a long time.
Sure.
The explosion, just at a basic psychological level, makes some sense. But it sounds like that the ongoing response, or the continuation of the response, has gotten off track and is no longer about George Floyd, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I did a post about almost a month ago, because it was like, okay, not only does the country, cities know the injustice that's going on, now it's time to stop before we get to the place that we start tearing up, burning up, shooting up, looting up, you name it. Because along with that, remember, Antifa came in and they started to add. So it's like, it goes back to the first part of John 10:10. The thief cometh but for to kill, steal, and destroy. And that's what it was confusion. God is not the author of confusion. He'll bring things to light, but it's how we deal with it. So my thought had always been, okay, now that this thing has come to light, it's blown up like the world, let's sit down now and have some kind of dialogue on what we can do to prevent this from happening again, not just in Milwaukee, but in the nation itself. Sure, there'll be a lot of resistance, but we've got to learn to use this instead of our guns and our sticks and our bricks and other stuff, because when it's destroyed, who's hurt in the end? The people in those local communities. Then they have to try to restructure and how to figure out how they're going to even survive from day to day, because then their jobs are gone. Their income for that community is gone, and the whole 9 yards. And I'm saying this from, I was a kid when the Watch riot happened here. And then in 92, we had the riots. Yeah. And that was when the Rodney King thing went on. They exonerated those cops who everybody in the world saw beat the hell out of the poor guy, And that's saying that he was right in what he was doing. But
Yeah.
what that brought was our local neighborhoods. Not only were the grocery stores, I think they even burned up a bank, but the local grocery stores was gone. So we
Yeah.
had to drive miles to find a
Yeah.
grocery store and then stand in line for almost a good hour and a half with your groceries to get to the check stand and pay for your groceries and get out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing now is people have learned to react instead of respond. If they
Mm.
would learn to respond, okay, well, you know what? You just called me out of my name, which really
Yeah.
doesn't hurt me anymore, you know, because, hey, I know who I am. But see, a lot of people, they use that as a springboard. Oh, you didn't upset me. Well, most of us, our foreparents especially, they've been called out of their name for up to years, but they survived. They brought us into this world and they did
Yeah.
what they had to do to survive. Now, I'm not saying punk out or take a back seat or because they used to say, what did Jesus say, turn the cheek? Okay, you turn the other cheek. Now, you only got two more and they're back in the back. so, it's all about using the mind in the proper way. And God knows I'm not perfect, but that's kind of things I've resolved from this because, like you said, it get way out of hand, and even now it's still happening. Okay, now, okay, folks in London now they're acting up. I mean, all over the world, but what is it going to end up being?
Are you concerned that this is a time when there's a lot of pressure to conform? There's a lot of pressure to conform. Is that one of the things you're concerned about? Because, I mean, again, going back to your personal experience, you know what it's like to be in a group where, privately people might have some doubts, but
Right.
there's a sense of fear or commitment, and so you conform, right? And then, unfortunately in that case, we saw where conformity, can take folks in the worst case. Is that one of the things you're concerned about, conformity right now?
Okay. Along with that, I am concerned about that. Along with that, think about it. Here we had the essential list that they put out that they wanted to close the bars, all sporting events, schools, which schools I could see okay, and so now they're doing everything supposedly on computers. But then my opinion, takes away that personal touch, that personal one-on-one or a group that the elementary school teacher could give to these kids. Okay, then you go down. What else did they have on there, which was very interesting? I think they had even schools, parlors, churches. They closed churches down, and I'm thinking, okay, I can see the mega churches, but what about the little guys that may be 5 or 10 members? No, 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 no. Social distance, social distance, social distance. I'm like, okay, all right. So we'll go along with your plan. So I'm saying, nah, I'm sorry. I'll even if I have to go to my grave with it in myself, but this is what I believe. And so I'm praying that not only will the truth come out, but there'll be a resolution to things that are going on now. Okay, with the virus, I'm praying that there will be a place where the virus, but see what happens is people get antsy. And so it's like if there's a fire out there, instead of staying away from the fire, well, I got to get out of here. And they freak out because of fear and they run into death rather than run away from death.
Mm, yeah, and I mean, and your experience is so important here. So, and again, given your experience, this is why, when you're expressing a little bit of skepticism about stuff we're getting from the authorities,
Mm-hmm.
people have opinions, but I think on a matter like this, I think your opinion is a little more informed because you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. I want to ask you I do want to ask you a question related to this, that's also related to your personal experience. And then I want to talk to you as a pastor. One of the things I just can't, I cannot get my mind around when I think about the Jonestown situation
Mm-hmm.
is that if you take out the little kids and the really elderly folks,
Mm-hmm.
on November 18th, you still have about 500 people who are physically capable of kicking over that vat. And even if that vat is being guarded, still you could rush it with 4 or 5 people and knock that thing over.
Mm-hmm.
You knew Christine Miller, and she did, take on Jones a bit, but she got shouted down.
Right.
But I mean, the thing that's really hard for me to wrap my mind around is that not a single person, so far as we know,
Mm-hmm.
made a real attempt to kick that thing over. My question to you is in a, and this is really, I guess, not necessarily a question related to this particular moment in history, but just sort of a general life question. On the one hand, we got to get along in community, and, there are authorities and there are laws, and, we got to carry on in our lives, and we got to be orderly,
Mm-hmm.
but we also got to be ready to kick over the vat
Mm-hmm.
if necessary. We got to be able to be that person who's going to say, well, I guess it's going to be me, but I'm going to go try to kick that thing over.
Mm-hmm.
And what's your advice? I mean, how do we, what's your advice to the person who says, man, if I had been there, I would have wanted to be the one who would have said, man, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to try to kick that thing over. I mean, what does it take to be that kind of person as you reflect back on that? Does the question make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. It does. When I was doing a lot of speaking at local colleges, UCLA, and every now and then other colleges, a few around the country, the question was always posed to me as, would you have died? And without really thinking, yes, I would have. Simple reason, for the last 4 or 5 years, we have been basically, like you said, brainwashed into believing that we were going to build a new world with peace, even though we were living in hell, a new world in peace, a new world where all of us would be equal, where we try to bring the socialism in and have equal housing. But even in the situation there, our housing wasn't up to standard, but we survived. That was what we sacrificed until everybody got the freedom that was coming. At least that's what and you get these drills over and over. It's just like we didn't go through the suicide drills. The closest we got to that one time was after Debbie Layton had left and went to the the American Embassy in Georgetown and said, hey, I want to go. The man's crazy. He's going to kill all the people, boo, boo, boo. Then we had an alert meeting where he described that someone had defected and he was going to give the person, it's a woman, I'm not going to tell you her name, but we're going to give her time to repent. And the only reason she left because I couldn't have sex with her. But I'm busy trying to help poor people get to freedom. So it was always the dynamics, and you felt like there was nowhere to go because the way he put it and our geographical situation.
Just in the jungle there.
There was nowhere to go. You can go to the water, but where are you going to go? There's about 150 miles to try to get back to Georgetown to dry land. So it was like a no-win situation. It's like putting a rat in a box with no doors and nowhere to climb up on. He's just going to freak out. So I think in that's why a lot of people didn't, because they were tired. Most of us worked, even if you worked 8 hours a day, you did real work.
Yeah.
We didn't have the major tools that were needed to dig up potatoes out of the ground, yams, and that kind of thing that we grew. I mean, we did well with what we had, which was our hands, our blood, sweat, and tears pretty much. But for the most part, you actually did physical labor. Most of us was from America, Northern America, you name it, cities. We weren't all from the South. There were a few of the folks from the South. They would teach us how to do these things to let us survive. But on the up and up, I think the ones that were considered the rebel rousers was the ones that he engrafted and brought close under his wing to make them feel important so that they wouldn't go off to the left and begin to do damage to his plan.
So it sounds like your answer to the question about how to be one of those folks, one of the vat kickers, one of the folks who'd be is don't let yourself get into that kind of situation in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
And definitely, and I'll say this to anybody, keep yourself prayed up. And we're not talking about with just, I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. No, you need some spiritual prayer with the Holy Spirit that will lead and guide you, because in that, it will build you up. And no matter what comes your way, you can stand. And you can be that one that will be the back kicker.
You're describing folks in Jonestown as exhausted, beaten down, trapped. I mean, maybe not beaten down, because, there are some folks who said, look, in a lot of ways it was beautiful. But, we're working really hard, exhausted, all that.
I think it was more psychological beat down.
Yeah, right.
Psychological, you were beat down.
Well, so, and so then folks are looking to the leader, the man with the answers. This is another reason why I wanted to talk with you, because, I don't know what it feels like in California where you are, but where I am, since March, we're in early July now, but since March, people are exhausted. They're beaten down. What they see in the country, they feel like, this thing is falling apart. And we're looking for some leader to step in and to fix it. And there's not a leader in sight. And does that resonate with you?
You think about it. That's what we've always done. That's what we did with Jones. We thought Jones had the answer to the plan. Now, it goes back to in the beginning when I was speaking with you earlier. It's about us as the body of Christ. Okay? Your part, my part, and we bring that together, and then we got a whole part. But see, look at it. I don't know how many church leaders I have spoken with on this end of the country, and they're all waiting for this great revival. But they're looking for one person to stand up and God use them. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think that's one of the major problems with the church, is that we veered away from what God intended, what we call the church to be. Because you and I are the church. We are part of the body of Christ. The physical buildings that man has built said that God wanted it. Why would God want a building with 1,000 to 10,000, maybe 20,000 people in it that one individual doesn't even know? All he knows is that they send in a check or a money order or something to support it, maybe. But knowing them on a one-on-one, knowing their fears, knowing their problems they're going with their family, they may have somebody assigned to them, maybe. But in the most part, they don't. And I think you're going to see a resurgence of a small nucleus or remnant that has come out of the church that God is going to use. And there is going to be a great awakening. Now, God is going to show himself strong in the midst of this. And I know that for sure. But it's not going to be through one individual. The country is looking for one individual to stand up. Okay, they're looking at Biden and they're looking at Trump. Both men, only men. Men have got their own mindset on how they believe and what they believe.
Yeah.
And I can say something negative about both of them. And it makes the local person look and say, well, the lesser of two evils. Do I flip a coin or just don't do anything? Then they beat you up. Oh, you're not a voter. Yeah. But who do I have to vote for? Duh. Okay. The lesser of two evils. So all I'm saying is instead of looking within, most people, just like we did with Jones, we looked out to him because we felt like he had something more than we did. But when I self-examine it now, as they say, hindsight, I look and say, wow, he was just as messed up as most of us, and more so, in his psychic and trying to prove himself to be. I think one of the things that really resonated was when, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this lady who used to be in the temple up in the Bay Area, well, LA, and then she moved to the Bay Area. she had a young son, and it become 17 down there. Had a relationship with a young lady, and they broke it off. And so he freaked out and said, well, I'm going to kill myself. So he ran into the jungle. So while he's in the jungle, they were searching, could not find his kid for like 2 days or so. And so in the meantime, his attorneys advised him that if we find him dead and his mom's up in the Bay Area, we're going to be in trouble. We can't explain that. So they forcibly, like, you got to come down. So she was pissed. And the night that woman got there, a handful of us was standing around Jones. You know, he's standing around talking, sharing his philosophies and da-da-da-da. And to the far right, he saw that trailer pull up. And when she got off, she was cussing and fussing. And when she came down right by the pavilion where we were under the pavilion, there was a little handful of us, she came down, he turned his back and cowered down behind us, just like this. And I looked at him like, now, I definitely didn't open my mouth and speak this, but in my spirit, I'm saying, dang, I thought you was a bad dude. And this one little woman, wow, oh my God. And naturally, I couldn't share it with my wife. I couldn't share my thoughts, but my thought was, wait a minute, something's wrong with this picture. You talk all this talk, you made public threats to the president on down and what you're going to do and how you're going to kick it, blah, blah, blah. And yet this one woman comes by. And it turned out they found him. They found him alive. He wasn't dead. They found him alive. And so she was permitted to go back. But in the meantime, he showed himself not very strong.
The leader, Jim Jones.
The leader.
Showed himself to be not very strong. Oh. Well, and I mean, this relates, I'm relating it in my mind to, I mean, just this feeling. I don't know what you're hearing in California, but what I'm hearing out here is just like, we're looking around at pretty much every institution and just asking, you know, who is leading, who's in charge, who's going to get us out of this mess. Mm-hmm. And of course we need leaders, but maybe it's a dangerous situation when people feel beat down and they're looking for something outside of themselves. So let me come to you then now just, you know, specifically as a pastor now, and just say, so pastor, you know, what should I do? I mean, I'm feeling beaten down. I'm feeling like, I mean, is this country even going to exist in 5 years? You know, is this thing just going to fall apart? I'm feeling discouraged. I mean, there are a lot of people feeling like this. So imagine someone comes to you, like, I'm feeling beat down. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on. I'm powerless. I mean, what's your pastoral response to someone who feels like that in the moment?
Well, my pastoral response to people that are in that place, because I was there for a hot minute, and then I had to regroup, and I had to grab on to what I really believe.
You mean this recently?
Yeah. Because he said it would never be easy. He never told us it was going to be easy. He told us, and he warned us that this plague was going to come. He didn't say how it's going to come, when it was going to come, but in the word it shares that it was going to come. What's that? 1 Chronicles 7:13. Before we even get to 14, he talked about the plagues. But with the plagues, we still got to trust in him. And so I get the people to the point where they understand we've got to trust in him. We come against every spirit of depression, oppression that will come upon you, because those are the spiritual elements that are hitting a lot of people, because it's got them locked down. Okay. But then too, we pray and let them understand that God is still going to meet your needs. Your job is to trust in God. Stop trying to figure out how he's going to do it, because that'll wear you out and make your hair fall out, even though I keep mine cut off. You know what I'm saying in that respect? Yeah. But see, a lot of people get hung up because the things that they can touch and feel, if they don't think they're coming to them, then that worries them. So they're not walking by faith, they're walking by sight. So I just remind them who they are in God. We as believers, period, whether we're pastor or not, our job is to be a witness. That don't mean have nothing to do with knocking on doors, but as we come in contact with someone, trust me. And at this point in time, there are a lot of people that are just freaking out because, you know, We used to say when we were kids, they don't know whether to do or go blind because there's so much always coming. Okay, but think about it. It's quite interesting when you think about this. I don't know if you saw it on your news station. On our news station, when the riots, the disobedience, and all this stuff started going on, coronavirus wasn't even secondary. The
Yeah.
whole newscast was about that. Now it's a deluge of coronavirus everything now. Now they're saying they just closed some things down again yesterday. Well, midnight. They closed a whole bunch of things down from the governor to the mayor in LA. Victorville, we still got quite a few stuff that's closed now. But we had opened up a few things. However, once again, it's got people in the place of, and they're telling people a second wave is going to come along with the flu season. So that's like double pressure. And we know that pressure in the mind is worse than a gunshot almost. And so that's where we have to bring people to an area of peace, pray with people in regard to peace, the real peace, his peace that surpasses all of our understanding. Science can figure it out, but we know through God all things are possible. And I think bringing people back to an area of really believing in God, I think is so much more important than us even meeting on a Sunday. If I can be a one-on-one today and run into you and I'm able to speak into your life, that you have some peace and begin to recognize and realize is all you have to do is continue to pray and converse with him.
So we're in the world, we're experiencing what's going on in the world,
Yeah.
but we're struggling against being of the world.
Yes, sir. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, keep that distance. Keep that distance between, I'm in the world, I'm experiencing what's going on in the world, but I need to hold the world at some distance too, because ultimately this isn't my home.
There you go.
Is that right? That's what you're saying. Well, Pastor Fortson, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your spirit. I appreciate your insights. And like I say, when I was thinking, gosh, I just want to hear somebody else talk about it. I'm tired of listening to myself think about it. I want to hear someone else's thoughts. You really are the first person that came to my mind immediately. Okay. So I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing these thoughts.